Okay, today's topic is international situation after the German Unification. First, talking about rapid growth in economy and power after the 1871 reunification. First, talking about Britain because Britain is the most powerful state in that period because it's the largest colonial empire in the world and the most powerful navy. At the same time, Germany is most powerful and rapid growth in economy and power after the 1871 reunification. Best trained and equipped army in Europe and the huge territorial ambition. And talk about France side because France is not good that time because resource rich Alsace-Lorraine was annexed by Germany in the 1871 Franco-Prussia War. Looked for ways to restore it. And talking about Austro-Hungary side as the largest and stable and divided empire, different ethnic groups often attempted to break away from their own nation states. And that time, Russian side was the largest empire in Europe, the largest army, and less advances in industrialization. And Ottoman Empire sides empires stretched from Europe to the Middle East and Asia. Central government were too weak to control all part of its empire. And talk about international conservation of German Unification. Answer the German questions that had been feature of European politics for generations. Create a strong military and economic power at the heart of Europe. Demonstrate the weakness of Austria and to a lesser extent France. Expelled Austria from Germany once and for all, forcing her to look south and east for foreign policy success. Encouraged nationalist movements elsewhere, especially in the Balkans. And we can see map in that situation and in that period. And talk about the German Empire growth and change. In the years of the 1871, German prospered under the leadership of Wilhelm I and Bismarck. Germany developed into a strong empire. This period was known as Second Reich or Empire because Germany considered the Holy Roman Empire to be First Reich. Germany was unified a single country in 1871 when 25 provisionally independent states joined together to create the new German Empire. The empire constitution was federal one. This means that each state kept their own individual princes, constitution and governments. Weakness of system, of course, every system has a weakness sides. In this system, the council had a stay in the cases good books, or he could be dismissed. The 25 individual states controlled income tax, which means the central government struggled to raise enough tax to cover its spending. Prussian influence was dominate also Wilhelm II's first chancellor. Caprivi did give up the position of Prime Minister of Prussia that his predecessor had held. And talking about economic growth, Germany expressed rapid industrialization in the second half of the 19th century. Agricultural production heavy industries were replaced by modern industries such as the manufacturing, chemicals and motor construction as the most important sectors of Germany economy. Inflation in 1871 accelerated the process of industrialization, and by 1900 Germany had the largest industrial economy in Europe, and we can see economic growth of Germany between 1819 to 1913. And talk about Bismarckian system. After 1871, Germany needed peace and stability in order to consolidate the gains of the war. Bismarck's needed pursued Europe that Germany was a stated power. The German security was keeping France isolated. There were five great powers, so Germany always needed to be part of bloc of third. The nightmare scenario, enslavement and war of two fronts needed to be avoided at all costs. Maintaining the peace. After 15 years of warfare in the Crimea, Germany and France. Europe began a period of peace in 1871 with the founding of the German Empire and signing of the Treaty of Frankfurt. At that time, May 1871, Otto von Bismarck emerged as a decisive figure in Europe history from 1871 to 1819. He retained control over Prussia and well as the foreign and domestic policies of the new German Empire. Bismarck had built his reputation as a war maker but changed overnight in the peacemaker. He successfully used the balance of power diplomacy to maintain Germany's position in Europe which, despite many disputes and war scares, remained at peace. A net result of the strength and military prestige of Germany combined with the situation created and manipulated by her chancellor was that in 80s Bismarck became emperor in all serious diplomatic disputes, whether they concerned Europe, Africa, or Asia. Questions such as the borders of Balkan states, the treatment of Armenians in the Turkish Empire and Jews in Romania, the financial affairs of Egypt, Russia, and exposed in the Middle East, the war between France and China, and the partition of Africa had to be referred to Berlin. Bismarck held the key to all these problems. And we can see this picture. Bismarck held all control in her head. The Darks burned in 1873. An informal agreement between Germany, Russia, and Austria-Hungary. The terms for vague included the concerned military alliances in the fight republicanism and socialism as the common traits. Committed all three powers to consult with the one of another matters in common interests and joint action if another power should disrupt the peace of Europe. And talking about imperialism, most of the major powers and some minor ones such as Belgium, the Netherlands, and Denmark engaged in imperialism, building up their overseas empires, especially in Africa and Asia. Also, there were numerous insurrections. Historians count only a few wars, and they were small scale to Anglo-Boer Wars, 1880 to 1881, and 1899 to 1902. The Sino-Japanese War happened in 1894 to 1895. First Italo-Ethiopian War happened between 1895 to 1896, and Spanish-American War 1898, and Italo-Ottoman War happened in 1911. The largest was the Russian-Japanese War of 1905, the only which the major powers fought each other. This 1875 crisis, Christian presence in Bosnia and Bulgaria rebelled against Ottoman rule. In 1876, Serbia and Montenegro declared war on Turkey. Thousands of Russian volunteers joined the Serbian army. The Turkish atrocities in Bulgaria led to an international outcry and turned British public opinion against intervention to support the Ottoman Empire. And in 1877, Austria and Greece to remain neutral in the event of Russian intervention in return for being allowed to occupy Bosnia-Herzegovina. In 1877 to 78, Russian-Turkish War, and through March 1878, Turkish forces to sign Treaty of San Stefano. And we can see liberate Bulgaria in 1878. And this map shows us in that situation, 1877, and talking about the Congress of Berlin. The fact that such as the high-profile conference was held in Berlin was the indication of Germany's power and prestige. Negotiation was stormy, and only Bismarck's energetic and successful diplomacy kept them from breaking down completely. The resultant Treaty of Berlin created a small Bulgarian state under Russian protection allowed Austria-Hungary occupy Bosnia-Herzegovina, gave Cyprus and Britain. The Congress succeeded averting a major European war but led to deterioration in Russia-Germany relations. Russia felt they had suffered humiliating diplomatic setback and Bismarck was to blame. The picture of Berlin Congress, and we can see the territorial settlement, the Balkans, 1878. And talking about takeover of Egypt in 1882. The most decisive event emerged from the Anglo-Egyptian War, which resulted in British occupation of Egypt for 7 decades. Even so, the Ottoman Empire retained nominal ownership until 1914. France was seriously unhappy, having lost control of the canal that it built and financed and had dreamed of for decades. Germany, Austria, Russia, and Italy, and of course Ottoman Empire itself were all angered by London's unilateral intervention. Great Game in Central Asia. The Great Game was political and diplomatic confrontations existed for most of the 19th century between Britain and Russia over the Afghanistan and neighboring territories in Central and Southern Asia, especially Persia and Turkestan. Britain made a high priority to protect all the approaches India, and the Great Game primarily how the British did this terms of possible Russian threat. Russia itself had no plans involving India and repeatedly said so. This resulted in an atmosphere of distrust and constant threat of war between the two empires. There were numerous local conflicts, but war Central Asia between the two powers never happened. And Bismarck realized that both Russia and Britain considered control of Central Asia high priority deployed the Great Game. Germany had no direct stakes, however, its dominance of Europe was enshaded when Russian troops were based as far away from Germany as possible. Over the 2 decades, in 1871 to 1819, he maneuvered to help British, hoping to force Russian commit to more soldiers to Asia. And we can see Russian Turkestan around 1900. And talking about the making of the alliance system. First, talking about the dual alliance in 1879, signed between Germany and Austria-Hungary. Each agreed to come to other 8 events of war with Russia or they remain neutral in war with any other power. The treaty was last for 5 years, but in the event remained valid until 1918. Second, they're talking about the Three Empires Agreement in 1881. Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Russia agreed to remain neutral in the event of them being involved in a war with another power. The Balkans divided into spheres in influence. And talking about the Triple Alliance in 1882 between Germany and Austria-Hungary and Italy. Germany and Austria agreed to intervene if Italy were attacked by France. Italy agreed to support Germany if he were attacked by France. The Resonance Treaty 1887. Germany and Russia agreed to remain neutral the event as one of them being involved in war with the third power. And we can see this treaty and allies. And talking about Scramble for Africa. Scramble for Africa was launched by Britain's unaccepted takeover of Egypt in 1882. In response, it became free for all for control of the rest of Africa. Britain, France, Germany, Italy, Portugal are greatly expanding the colonial empires in Africa. The King Belgium personally controlled the Congo bases along the coast became nucleus of colonies stretched inland. In the 20th century, the scramble of Africa was wildly denounced by anti-imperialist spokesman. At the time, however, it was praised as solution to the terrible violence and exploitation caused by strained and unbridled slave trades and explorers. Bismarck took the lead, trying to stabilize the situation by the Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885, as the European powers agreed on ground rules to avoid conflicts in Africa. And talking about Bismarck colonial policy, Bismarck was generally ambivalent about colonial expansion concerning an oversized empire and expensive indulgence. But public pressure for colonial empire led to acquisition and of number of territories in Africa. The Berlin Conference of 1884 to 1885 laid down the rules of European conquest in Africa and granted colonies to Germany. And however, Bismarck's relation with the colonials was short-lived. By 1887, he has raising pressure to acquire more colonies on the grounds that to do so would neatly antagonism Britain. And we can see German colonies in Africa during the 1884 to 1885. And we can see areas of Africa controlled by colonial power in 1913, showing along with the current national borders. Moroccan crisis in 1905 to 1906 and 1904 to 1905 Russo-Japanese War, we know that, and 1905 revolution in Russia, Russia temporarily weakened and discredited from European politics, and 1905 Moroccan crisis. January, the case guarantees Moroccan independence. Germany insists that her commercial interests must be protected, refuses to negotiation with France, and insists on international conference to settle Morocco's fate. And 1906 Algerian conference. Britain, Russia, and Italy all support France, a humiliating diplomatic defeat for Germany. Strengthens rather than breaks up the Anglo-French entente. Negotiation between the Kaiser and the Tsar for defensive alliance come to nothing after the France object to scream. Conclusion: German inflation upsets the balance of power. Despite Bismarck's best of efforts, wealth, politic convinced was the other great powers that Germany was dangerous to the peace and stability of Europe. But Germany's foreign policy based on the principles of the source for security. By 1910, Germany felt surrounded by hostile power and was slowly being bankrupted by the arms race and under the pressure from social change and home. War was seized by some Indian way out of Germany problems. And thank you for attention. Present by me, 5 Karam. Thank you too.